Prekmurje Slovene, also known as Pannonian Slovene, East Slovene, or Wendish, is a supradialectal regional variety of Slovenia. It is used in private communication, liturgy, and publications by authors from Prekmurje. It is spoken in the Prekmurje region of Slovenia and by the Hungarian Slovenes in Vas County in western Hungary. It is closely related to the Slovene dialects in neighboring Slovene Styria, as well as to the Kajkavian dialect of Croatian. Range. The Prekmurje dialect is spoken by approximately 110,000 speakers worldwide, 80,000 in Prekmurje, 20,000 dispersed in Slovenia and 10,000 in other countries. In Hungary it is used by the Slovene-speaking minority in Vas County in and around the town of St. Gotthard. Other speakers of the dialect live in other Hungarian towns, particularly Budapest, Szombathely, Bacani, and Moson-Magyaróvár. The dialect was also spoken in Somogy, but it has nearly disappeared in the last 2 centuries. There are some speakers in Austria, Germany, the United States, and Argentina. Status. Prekmurje Slovene has a defined territory and body of literature, and it is one of the few Slovene dialects in Slovenia that is still spoken by all strata of the local population. Some speakers have claimed that it is a separate language. Prominent writers in Prekmurje Slovene, such as Miklos Kuzmics, Istvan Kuzmics, Agustin Pavel, Josef Klekel Sr. and Josef Sakovics, have claimed that it is a language, not simply a dialect. Ewald Flizar, a writer, poet, and playwright from Prekmurje, states that people from Prekmurje talk in our own language. Quote, "It also had a written standard and literary tradition, both of which were largely neglected after World War II. There were attempts to publish in it more widely in the 1990s, primarily in Hungary, and there has been a revival of literature in Prekmurje Slovene since the late 1990s. Others consider Prekmurje Slovene a regional language, without denying that it is part of Slovenia. The linguist Janko Dula has characterized Prekmurje Slovene as a local standard language for historical reasons, as has the Prekmurje writer Ferry Lanechek. However, Prekmurje Slovene is not recognized as a language by Slovenia or Hungary, nor does it enjoy any legal protection under the European Charter for Regional and Minority Languages. There is no significant political or cultural movement in Slovenia seeking legal protection for Prekmurje Slovene. Together with region, Prekmurje Slovene is the only Slovene dialect with a literary standard that has had a different historical development from the rest of Slovenia ethnic territory. For centuries, it was used as a language of religious education as well as in the press and mass. The historical Hungarian name for the Slovenes living within the borders of the Kingdom of Hungary was Vendek, or the Wends. In the 18th and 19th centuries, Prekmurje authors used to designate this dialect as Esedtari Shalovenski jezik, Old Slovene. Both then and now, it is also referred to as the Slovene language between the Mura and Raba. Prekmurje Slovene is widely used in the regional media, films, literature. The younger generation also write SMS messages and web comments in the local tongue. In the Prekmurje and Hungary, a few streets, shops, hotels, etc. have Prekmurje Slovene names. In the 2012 protests in Slovenia in Murska Sobota, the protesters used Prekmurje Slovene banners. It is the liturgical language in the Lutheran and Pentecostal churches, and in the Catholic Church of Hungarian Slovenes. Marko Jesensek, a professor at the University of Maribor, states that the functionality of Prekmurje Slovene is limited, but it lives on in poetry and journalism. Linguistic features. Prekmurje Slovene is part of the Pannonian dialect group, also known as the Eastern Slovene dialect group. Prekmurje Slovene shares many common features with the dialects of Halos, Slovenski Goris, and Pralekia, with which it is completely mutually intelligible. It is also closely related to the Kajkavian dialect of Croatian, although mutual comprehension is difficult. Prekmurje Slovene, especially its more traditional version spoken by Hungarian Slovenes, is not readily understood by speakers from central and western Slovenia, whereas speakers from eastern Slovenia have much less difficulty understanding it. The early 20th century philologist Agustin Pavel stated that Prekmurje Slovene is in fact a large, autonomous dialect of Slovenia, from which it differs mostly in stress, intonation, consonant softness and, due to the lack of a significant language reform, of scarceness of vocabulary of modern terms, and that it preserves many ancient features. Orthography. Historically, Prekmurje Slovene was not written with the Bohoric alphabet used by Slovenes in Inner Austria, but with a Hungarian-based orthography. Janos Merkovic's textbook was the first book to use Gage's Latin alphabet. Before 1914, BB, CC, CSCS, DD, acute, FF, GG, GY, HHE, JJ, KK, UL, Lili, MM, NN, NY, OPP, SZ, S's, TT, UU, VV, ZZ, ZSZS. After 1914, BB, CC, DD, acute, FF, GG, GJ, HHE, JJ, KK, UL, LJ, MM, NN, NJ, PP, S's, TT, UU, VV, ZZ. Phonology. The Prekmurje dialect has a phonology similar to the phonology of other Eastern Slovene dialects. The vowels U and O are used, which do not appear in Standard Slovene. The vowels U and are particularly prominent in the northern dialects of Vendvidek in Gorico. Older names of several settlements, surnames, and names of rivers and hills often had these phonemes. Intonation, palatalization of consonants, and accentuation are also different. The diphthongs O or OW are also widespread. Examples include Baugabok, God, and Kausaku, peace. In some dialects, the preposition and prefix V in alternates with F, as in Kajkavian, for example, in Vendvidek FCARA, yesterday. Morphology. Inflections are somewhat similar to Croatian. In Prekmurje Slovene, the expression in Hungary is Vivogskoj. One of the reasons for this closeness to Standard Croatian is the long tradition of connections between the two peoples, because before the 18th century, most Prekmurje priests and teachers were educated in Croatia, particularly in Zagreb of Varaždin. In the old Marjanci hymnal, the influences of Croatian are clear. The 18th century Prekmurje writers that created Prekmurje Slovene applied many features of the Kajkavian dialect. In 1833, Joseph Kosiks, who was partially of Croatian descent, wrote a grammar emphasizing the Croatian features, with much of the terminology borrowed from Kajkavian, although elements from Styrian Slovene dialects were also included. Prekmurje Slovene, like Standard Slovene, preserves a dual number along with the singular and plural, for example, Mava Virginia, the two of us are, the Vuvatar, the two of you are, Nuvatar, the two of them are. Lexicon. The dialect includes many archaic words that have disappeared from modern Slovene. Some Prekmurje Slovene words can be found in the Freising manuscripts from the 9th century, the oldest written record in Slovenian, along with the three dialects spoken in Venetian Slovenia and the Slovene dialects of Eastern Carinthia. Prekmurje Slovene is considered the most conservative of all Slovene dialects with regard to vocabulary. Many words in modern Prekmurje Slovene are borrowed from Hungarian and German. Examples of words that differ from Standard Slovene include iza, house, and lasnost, happinesses. Other words are only superficially different because of phonological changes. For example, meso, meat, and zavek, rabbit. There are dozens of Hungarian and German loanwords. The frequent presence of German loanwords is particularly observable among Hungarian Slovenes and in northern and western Prekmurje. Some words have different meanings in the dialect and in Standard Slovene, for example, grajbin and stole, table. Prekmurje Slovene subdialects: the Raba of Envidake subdialect, near the Raba River, in the St. Gotthard district. The Gariko subdialect in Upper Prekmurje, Grad, north of Cankova. The Ravensko subdialect, Slovene, Ravensko Podnarekia, Prekmurje Slovene, Ravenski Gova, west of Cankova and south of Murska Sobota and Rakikan. The Murska Sobota subdialect, near Murska Sobota. The Markovsko-Adolinsko subdialect, Podnarekia, Prekmurje Slovene, Dolenski I Markiski Gova, south of Rakikan, near the Mura and Ledava rivers. The Gariko dialect includes the Slavchi subdialect spoken by Miklos and Istvan Kuzmics. History. The Prekmurje dialect developed from the language of the Carantanian Slavs who settled around Balaton in the 9th century. Due to the political and geographical separation from other Slovene dialects, the Prekmurje dialect acquired many specific features, separated from the cultural development of the remainder of ethnic Slovene territory. The Slovenes in Hungary gradually forged their own specific culture and also their own literary language. In the end of the 16th century, some Slovene Protestant pastors supported breaking away from Hungary. The pastors brought along the Bible of Primoz Truba and used it in Gornji Petrovci. The first book in the Prekmurje dialect appeared in 1715 and was written by the Lutheran pastor Ferenc Stemlin. In the 18th and early 19th century, a regional literature written in Prekmurje Slovene flourished. It comprised mostly of religious texts, written by both Protestant and Catholic clergymen. The most important authors were the Lutheran pastor Istvan Kuzmics and the Roman Catholic priest Miklos Kuzmics, who settled the standard for the Prekmurje regional standard language in the 18th century. Both of them were born in central Prekmurje, and accordingly the regional literary language was also based on the central subdialects of Prekmurje Slovene. Miklos Kuzmics in the 1790s rejected Standard Slovene. The poet, writer, translator, and journalist Imre Augustic made approaches towards Standard Slovene, but retained the Hungarian alphabet. The poet Ferenc Bull also made motions toward accepting Standard Slovene. By the 16th century, a theory linking the Hungarian Slovenes to the ancient Vandals had become popular. Accordingly, Prekmurje Slovene was frequently designated in Hungarian Latin documents as the Vanillane language. With the advent of modernization in the mid-19th century, this kind of literature slowly declined. Nevertheless, the regional standard continued to be used in religious services. In the last decades of the 19th and 20th century, the denomination Wends and Wendish language was promoted, mostly by pro-Hungarians, in order to emphasize the difference between Hungarian Slovenes and other Slovenes, including attempts to create a separate ethnic identity. In 1919, most of Prekmurje was assigned to the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats and Slovenes, and Slovene replaced Hungarian as the language of education and administration. Standard Slovene gradually started to replace Prekmurje Slovene in the local Roman Catholic Church, while the Lutheran community continued to use the dialect in the religious services. The local press tried to combine the old Prekmurje regional standard with Standard Slovene, making it completely intelligible to Slovenes from other regions. In the late 1920s and 1930s, many Slovenes from the Julian March who fled from fascist Italy settled in Prekmurje, especially in the town of Murska Sobota, which helped spread the use of Standard Slovene among the population. The Yugoslav authorities encouraged the settlements of Slovene political immigrants from the Kingdom of Italy in Prekmurje as an attempt to reduce the influence of the Magyar element in the region. Besides, the Western Slovene dialects were very difficult to understand for the people of Prekmurje. Thus, the use of Standard Slovene became almost indispensable for the mutual understanding. After World War II, the Lutheran Church also switched to Standard Slovene in most of its parishes, and Prekmurje Slovene has since been relegated to almost exclusively private use. Nevertheless, along with region, the Prekmurje dialect is one of the few Slovene dialects still used by most speakers, with very little influence from Standard Slovene. This creates a situation of diglossia, where the dialect is used as the predominant means of communication in private life, while the standard language is used in schools, administration, and the media. The situation is different among Hungarian Slovenes, where Standard Slovene is still very rarely used. A second wave of standardization began in 1823. Malibala issued a new hymn book. Joseph Kosiks, a great writer and poet from Prekmurje, made contact with the Slovenian linguist Orislav Kaf and thus get acquainted with the Styrian Slovenian dialect. Kosiks first worked in Olszolnok. The teacher of the village was Joseph Vogrin, born into the Slovene Styria, and accordingly spoke the Styrian dialect. Kosiks's father was of Croatian descent, and accordingly was also raised in the Kajkavian Croatian language. The Kratki Navuk Vogskoga Jezika za Zaksetnika, a Slovenian Hungarian grammar book and dictionary, let out the standard Prekmurje Slovene. The Zobrazani Shalovani Shalovanska Madmurov in Ribov ethic book formed the ethics and linguistic norms. Zagodba Vogaskoga Kralistva and Starine Selesny Ino Salaski Shalovankov, the first Prekmurje Slovenian history books. Kosiks was the first writer to write non-religious poetry. In 1820, a teacher named Istvan Lulik wrote a new course book, into which was made 3 issues. Sandor Deplan and Janos Kardos wrote a psalm book and a hymn book, the latter a reprint of Bala's hymn book. Janos Kardos translated numerous verses from Sandor Pitofi, Janos Aroni and few Hungarian poet. In 1870, he worked on a new course book, the Novnyi Cstenu za Vesnixki Soldrugis at LOCS. In 1875, Imre Augustich established the first Prekmurje Slovene newspaper Prijatel. Later, he wrote a new Hungarian Prekmurje Slovene grammar and translated works from Hungarian poets and writers. In 1886, Joseph Bagary wrote second course book, which applied the GOJ alphabet. In 1914 to 1918, the ethnic governor and later parliamentarian congressman in Beograd Joseph Klekel standardized Prekmurje Slovene, making use of the Croatian and Slovene languages. In 1923, the new prayer books Hodike Oltaskomis Vesti Orthography was written in the GAJ. Items in the newspapers: the Catholic Novine, Marianne List, Mariano Grachek, Calendar SRCA Jezasivoga, the Lutheran Dusavny List and Evangelikanski Calendar were written in the Prekmurje Slovene. Joseph Sakovics took an active part in cultivating the Prekmurje dialect, although not all schools offered education in Prekmurje Slovene. The prominent Prekmurje writer Misko Kranjek also wrote in Slovene. Janos Flisser wrote a Hungarian Wendish dictionary in 1922. In 1941, the Hungarian army seized back the Prekmurje area and by 1945 aimed to make an end of the Prekmurje dialect and Slovene by the help of Mikola. After 1945, Communist Yugoslavia banned the printing of religious books in the Prekmurje dialects, and only Standard Slovene was used in administration and education. In Hungary, the dictator Matyas Rákosi banned every minority language and deported the Slovenes in the Hungarian plain. The question of the Wenda Prekmurje language, the issue of how Prekmurje Slovene came to be a separate tongue, has many theories. First, in the 16th century, there was a theory that the Slovenes east of the Mura were descendants of the Vandals, an East Germanic tribe of pre-Roman Empire era antiquity. The Vandal name was used not only as the scientific or ethnological term for the Slovenes, but also to acknowledge that the Vandalic people were named the Shalovenci, Shalovenski, Shalovenie. In 1627 was issued the Protestant visitation in the country Totsag, or Slovene circumscription. Here enact a Slavic Bible in Gornji Petrovci, which is a matter of fact the Bible of Primoz Truba. From Carniola and Styria in the 16th and 17th centuries, a few Slovene Protestant pastors fled to Hungary and brought with them Truba's Bible, which helped set the standard for Slovene. Not known by accident, there was work on Prekmurje Slovene. According to the Hungarian dissenters, the Wendish language was of Danish, Sorbian, Germanic, Celtic, East and Romance or West Slavic extraction, but this was often false, political or exaggerated affirmations. According to extremist Hungarian groups, the Wends were captured by Turkish and Croatian troops who were later integrated into Hungarian society. Another popular theory created by some Hungarian nationalists was that the speakers of the Wendish language were, in truth, Magyar peoples, and some had merged into the Slavic population of Slovenia over the last 800 years. In 1920, Hungarian physicist Sándor Mikola wrote a number of books about Slovene inhabitants of Hungary and the Wendish language, the Wendish Celtic theory. Accordingly, the Wends were of Celtic extraction, not Slavic. Later Mikola also adopted the belief that the Wends indeed were Slavic-speaking Hungarians. In Hungary, the state's ethno-nationalistic program tried to prove his theories. Mikola also thought the Wends, Slovenes, and Croatians alike were all descendants of the Pannonian Romans. Therefore they have Latin blood and culture in them as well. During the Hungarian Revolution, when Hungarians rebelled against Habsburg rule, the Catholic Slovenes sided with the Catholic Habsburgs. The Lutheran Slovenians, however, supported the rebel Lavos Kossuth siding with Hungary, and they pleaded for the separation of Hungary from Habsburg Austria, which had its anti-Protestant policy. At the time, the reasoning that the inhabitants of the Raba region were not Slovenes but Wends and Wendish Slovenes, respectively, and that, as a consequence, their ancestral Slavic Wendish language was not to be equated with the other Slovenes living in the Austro-Hungarian Empire, was established. In the opinion of the Lutheran Slovene priest of Hodos, the only possibility for the Lutheran Slovenes emerging from the Catholic Slovenian population group to continue was to support Kossuth and his Hungarian culture. Thereafter, the Lutheran Slovenes used the language in churches and schools in the most traditional way in order to distinguish themselves from the Catholic Slovenes and the Slovene language. The Lutheran priests and believers remained of the conviction that they could only adhere to the Lutheran faith when following the wish of the Hungarians and considering themselves Wendish Slovenes. If they did not conform to this, then they were in danger of being assimilated into Hungarian culture. In the years preceding World War I, the Hungarian Slovenes were swept into the ideology of Pan-Slavism, the national unity of all Slavic-speaking peoples of Eastern Europe. The issue was volatile in the fragmented Austro-Hungarian Empire, which was defeated in the war. In the 1921 Treaty of Trianon, the southern half of the Prekmurje region was ceded to the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats and Slovenes. The Hungarian government in Budapest after 1867 tried to assimilate the Prekmurje Slovenes. In Somogy in the 19th century, there was still a ban on using Prekmurje Slovene. Josef Borovniak, Ferenc Ivanokzy, and other Slovenian politicians and writers helped safeguard the Prekmurje dialect and identity. In the late 20th century and today, the new notion for Hungarian Slovenians is to conceive Prekmurje Slovene as in fact the Slovene language, but not dialect. Their allusions, the Cosmic Gospels, the old grammar and state-run public schools, the typical Prekmurje Slovene and Raba Slovene culture, the few centuries-old long isolation in Prekmurje Slovene and continued self-preservation from the Hungarian majority. Hungarian Slovenes are more interested in being Slovenes. In communist Yugoslavia, Prekmurje Slovene was looked down upon because numerous writers, such as Josef Klekel, were anti-communists. However, pseudo-scientific and extremist theories continue to be propagated. Ethnological research has again looked into the Celtic Wends, Wendish Magyars, Pannonian Roman, and West Slavic theories. Tzsiga, a prominent Hungarian historian in 2001, declared, "The Slovene people cannot be declared Wends, neither in Slovenia, neither in Prekmurje." One may mind the Slovinsky name issue was under Pan-Slavism in the 19th–20th century. The other believes the issue was purely political in nature. Examples: a comparison of the Lord's Prayer in Standard Slovene, Standard Prekmurje Slovene, Standard Croatian, and Kajkavian Croatian. The Prekmurje Slovene version is taken from a 1942 prayer book. The original Hungarian orthography has been transliterated into Gage's Latin alphabet, as used in the other versions, for easier comparison. Gallery.